Well, our task is to graph this rational function. And so here we go. And the vertical asymptote is x equals 0. In other words, it's the y-axis. The horizontal asymptote is also 0, so y equals 0. Because the degree of the numerator is less than the degree of the denominator. Anytime that's the case, your horizontal asymptote will be 0. The vertical asymptote, to determine what the vertical asymptote is, just ask yourself what value of x will take this denominator to 0, and 0 will. So now the only issue we have is what does the rest of it look like? Well, will you agree if x is positive, then all values will be positive, all y values, and also if x is negative, then all y values will be negative. Now you can check this out. As x gets very large, like 100, will you agree this thing is approaching 0? And as x gets very small, like 1 over 100, well then, when you take the quotient of 1 over 100 and invert and multiply, you'll get 100. So you can see that thing is heading for the moon. Well, here's our next one. And this time we have a translated origin. What value of x will take that denominator to 0? 3 will. So we'll move the whole graph over 3 units. And 1, 2, 3. And now the vertical asymptote, so our vertical asymptote is x equals 3. The horizontal asymptote again will be y equals 0 because the degree of the numerator is less than the degree of the denominator. The degree of the numerator is 0, the degree of the denominator is 1. So now the question is, well, in which quadrant or quadrants do the graphs occur? Well, let's just check and see what the y-intercept is. And will you agree that f of 0 equals negative 2/3? So we'll go to, and we'll label this negative 2/3 0. And here's what it looks like. So if half the graph is in this quadrant, the other half will be in the opposite quadrant. And there we have it. For our third rational equation, let's see, the vertical asymptote. Oh, the first step in determining that is to factor that denominator, so that's going to be 4x, and we can't factor the numerator, but we can the denominator, and we get 5 times x plus 2. Now what value of x will take that denominator to 0? Well, negative 2 will. So we're going to have a vertical asymptote at x equals negative 2. And there we go. And now we have to come up with a horizontal asymptote. And that's going to be at y equals, and let's see, the 2 degree setting terms are 4x and 5x. And the degree is 1 in each case. So then the horizontal asymptote will be the quotient of 4x divided by 5x, which equals 4 over 5, doesn't it? So here we are at, and this is, by the way, I better label this, this is negative 2, and this will be 4 over 5, and there's our horizontal asymptote. Now we have to determine, well, where do we place the graphs? Well, let's look at f of 0, and f of 0 turns out to be negative 1 over 10. So negative 1 over 10, very small. 0, negative 1 over 10. And so, by the way, the X intercept, to find that, we'll just set f of x equal to 0. And the only position we have to look at is the numerator, because the only way that can be 0 is if the numerator was 0. And we'll set that equal to 0, and what we wind up with is 4x equals 1, or x equals 1/4. So here we are at, oh boy, kind of crowded here. I'm going to label that as 1/4 0. So what does our graph look like? Well, here's what it looks like. It's going to go forever like that. And the rest of the graph is going to look like that, isn't it? So